Hey guys, it's Cam with Hope to Canine Foundation. I'm in my office staying cool on this Friday afternoon, so pardon the fan. I hope it's not too distracting. We're located in San Diego, California, so if you are unfamiliar with our organization, quick couple tips. We exist to help keep dogs in their homes whenever possible through training, resources, and support. We know a lot of dogs are surrendered to shelters and rescues or euthanized due to primarily behavior issues that are often extremely resolvable, and management strategies that can be put in place that will actually teach the owner a lot about their operation, their process, and their leadership. This in turn helps you not just improve your dog and in the relationship that you share with them, but every other area of your life. So today's conversation is a Q&A that came in with one of our established adopters, actually, a client of ours who has a couple of our dogs that have been fully trained here. And something's come up in a dynamic when she's not around where one of the dogs is becoming more territorial around the children. This is actually a topic that surfaces fairly frequently for us. So it's a great question for us to share as a Fix It Friday conversation. It is usually presented to us prior to someone starting a training program because they'll have concerns about fixing other behaviors and shutting down problematic behaviors, then resulting in the dog no longer being able to be defensive or territorial or protect the home. It'll also come up when we have owners here inquiring about surrendering their dog to us because we are a rescue organization and occasionally take dogs in that we then fully train or rehabilitate before adopting out. Often we will have folks say, this dog is territorial, I'm concerned it might bite my children, or it has already bitten someone, it's been through quarantine, we can't afford to get it out, or we've brought it back home and it's had problems again. And so we'll see the same theme of what's behind the behavior and why it's problematic in that context. I'm really hoping this resonates with someone today here on in our audience rather. And if you feel that you know someone who might benefit from the conversation or who has another question perhaps that they'd like to present to us, just feel free to share this out and tag them in if that's a little bit easier. Either way, you can let them know that you can email any questions like this to us directly and we will either get on, I'll share my video answer this way, or on a live stream. And also in the live streams, we can invite that individual on to share a laser coaching session, meaning they are live with me and we can actually have that conversation in real time. It's a free coaching call, right? It's fantastic value. So those questions can be emailed to Cameron@hopetocanine.com. That's HOPE, the number 2, letter K, number 9. And I will absolutely get you scheduled for us to either have a chat or I'll create that content answer for you. So here comes the question, all right? I need some help with my dog. She's doing great, loves the girls. They both walk her, feed her, make her listen. She doesn't bark when people are at the door. She's great on hikes and walks. But not long ago, the girls were home alone while I ran to the store. The dog was not in her kennel, but on her bed. A guy came to the door. Dog went crazy, barking and growling. No idea who he was, but the dog was not happy. Today, both dogs were in the yard. Daughters were home. I was not. The yard guy came. This same dog would not let him in the yard. She would not come in the house, which is just not like her. Again, you have to remember this is a fully trained dog, off-leash reliable. Daughter had to leash her and bring her in. She would still not stop barking and growling. He was only here for a few minutes and she calmed down right after that. Long story short, how do I deal with this since it's not happening when I'm here? Honestly, I think she has a good sense about creepy guys since this person also kind of creeps me out sometimes too. I think she's just being protective of my girls since she never does this when we're on our walks or hiking, even when the girls are with me. I would hate for it to escalate. I also can't see my daughter being the one to really do a lot of correction, given it only happens around creepy guys. So what are your thoughts, she said. Again, this is such a great question and it's a common theme. We will have individuals contact us for training and say, I really like that my dog barks or reacts at the door because I live in a sketchy neighborhood. I don't want them to stop doing that. Here's the thing, guys. Dogs who understand the difference between when it's time to activate into protection mode or defense mode in an appropriate way, not from insecurity or instability. And think about this on the human end of the leash as well, because humans react from insecurity and instability and it's not safe. They will often do crazy ass shit, right? That's super dangerous or could get them in big trouble. Alternately, it could be silly stuff. I reacted once and quit a job right on the spot. It was not the smartest thing I'd ever done. It was not my finest moment. I'm still glad I did it, but I'm just saying, we can often make irrational and not good decisions when we're operating from those feelings. And if we are unstable and insecure, we're pretty much a setup to fail in terms of our judgment call in that moment. The same is true for our dogs. Dogs who are insecure at their core, who do not have a high level of training to understand the difference of when it's appropriate to turn on and off, which should be at the owner's discretion and command, they are not appropriate to be allowed to explore this behavior willy-nilly without feedback and information from you. So in this instance, our trainer's reply is going to be something along the lines of, it's really more dangerous to allow this to happen, because even if she is defensive of the kids and that feels good emotionally on a certain level when you're not around, the kids could end up getting bitten by way of that dog redirecting on them when they're trying to collect her up. The dogs could begin fighting with each other. There's a tremendous arousal in that defensive moment, in that reactive moment where the dog is kind of misfiring on the basis of, I don't know what to do right now because my leader, the adult, is not present to handle this for me and give me the feedback that I need, right? So the dogs could end up getting in a fight together because of that redirected or misdirected arousal and defensiveness. Alternately, your dog could escape. It could actually reach that individual and bite them and be in big trouble with the law. We have dogs that we get contacted about who are in quarantine. Owners are financially in ruins trying to get that dog out of quarantine due to the logistical requirements of the county to do anything from pay a fine to change the actual doors and locks and fencing in their home. That dog could also do some damage to somebody who's completely innocent. Let's just not even setting aside your dog getting loose or harmed or redirecting on your children or on another dog in the pack, but it could actually maul someone else's dog or someone else's children with that redirected and unmanaged defensiveness. So the dogs that are appropriate to be able to have this level of freedom and autonomy in making decisions in that case are going to be a very small percentage of the population, and they're generally not pet dogs at all. They have had a ton of careful training, education, work, and sourcing, meaning their genetics, the core makeup of this animal has more stability, more biddability than your average pet dog, particularly these two dogs who are both rescue dogs with sketchy pasts. The female in this case has territorial behavior, in fact, pretty significant crate aggression in her history. It showed up here immediately in the first 10 minutes of her being surrendered to us years ago when she first came in. And as predicted, in spite of her training, it surfaced at her newly adoptive home as well. Luckily, they had the support of us to walk them through how to deal with it. But it certainly is a limiter for her in being successful in boarding in certain scenarios, handled by people she doesn't know out of the crate and things like that. So we already know that we have a core insecure and defensive dog who is reactive inappropriately at the wrong times. This is just a pure and simple case of it is not appropriate for this dog to be allowed to have access to those scenarios in which she could act out on that defensiveness because she doesn't make good, consistent choices. She is not highly trained for it, and she does not have the appropriate core stability and intuition and personality and temperament to make those decisions correctly over time, particularly without your guidance. So our feedback is going to be here that this should be a dog that's crated 100% when you're not around. It's not acceptable to leave her out if we don't have adults in the mix to handle giving information to the dog, correcting that it's not appropriate for her to take control and be defensive. If you've got a younger child who is still legally able to be left at home, but you're feeling that they're under that threshold of adult and safe enough if somebody really truly were to come to the house that is trying to cause them harm, worst case scenario, you teach them that if they really feel their life is in danger, they can let their dog out of the crate. That being said, it isn't appropriate on a regular basis by any means to wing it and see what happens because of all the aforementioned potential behavior outcomes where one or more dogs or people could be harmed in that situation. If you guys want a dog who understands appropriate defense and protection, it should be a dog that is highly trained, that you've done a ton of work with. The percentage of the population that is appropriate to have a protection trained dog, if you talk to any of my colleagues who operate in that world full time, it's a very, very small percentage, very small number of people who are appropriate to own and be responsible for those dogs. They essentially are a weapon. They also require a ton of fulfillment. It is a great thing to get into the sporting world of bite work and protection training, to understand dog behavior better, to fulfill your dog better, and to just get out, work your dog, spend time together, and learn about yourself, your own handling, your communication, and where you kind of miss the boat or are confusing your dog potentially. So many wonderful things come from getting involved in that type of work together. But for a truly solid protection trained dog to, qualify for placement is going to be a lot of money on your behalf, a lot of time being trained on how to manage and maintain that and fulfill that animal. And it's going to be a very strict filtering system for whether or not that dog is genetically and temperamentally sound. They have to be healthy enough to physically do the work of biting and searching and jumping at and holding on and putting up with the various components of protection training. There are many dogs who do not qualify physically for that type of work. They fall apart, pet dogs in particular. It's just an area that you need to do a massive amount of research. You need to recognize it's not family pet dog training at all. So that certainly wasn't the request coming in this case with this question, but it is one that is appropriate for us to cover because a lot of people will be concerned. They want that dog to be defensive of their home. They want them to know it's okay to bark or rush to the door and let somebody that is unexpected or unwanted know that there is a presence of a canine on site. And most dogs, once you have training on board and you've restricted that activity and started to slowly expand more freedom and opportunities for them to, be set up for that type of behavior, most of them can get to a point where you can allow them to alert and then you can tell them enough and go to place or recall and redirect them to something else or put them up in the crate if they have a history of being defensive or reactive on any level. You need to secure your dog before you would open your door, let anyone in, or answer to anyone who is delivering or what have you. But for any dog that is already at the core insecure, unstable, doesn't have the right training, doesn't understand the consistency and make good decisions, and is insecure, we really have to limit access to those opportunities and highly control and manage to prevent some of the other consequences that can come up from not taking those precautions. So our answer in this case again is the dog should be crated when you're not around because an adult needs to be present in the situation, not just to manage the animal, but also to be the one who's responsible to protect the children. And that we need to be very careful about the messages that we're sending to our dogs. It is not their job to protect our home and our family unless they are a very specific, highly trained animal that is doing so as a job and they have received the appropriate amount of education and they are solid in their core to recognize the difference of when it's appropriate to do that and absolutely to not do it when you say that's enough, you need to out, or whatever your command is going to be. Do feel free to leave comments, questions. I hope I covered everything, and I really appreciate again that our adopter wrote in and allowed us to coach them through this one. The dog has become more comfortable. That's also part of the problem, right? When you have an adopted dog come into your home at first, they tend to be a little upended. They're a little more uncomfortable. They don't come out of their shell quite as much right away. They don't feel as confident or comfortable taking action and taking initiative of certain things. It's usually after that 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, 90 days that you see different intersections of the behavior start to open up and move forward with more presumption, more pushback, more attitude potentially. And you have a dog now that's been in the environment for quite a while, over a year or two maybe, I can't remember exactly, at least a year. And so you have a dog that has just become more comfortable about pushing the envelope and taking on that behavior choice. If it isn't addressed swiftly and consistently, again, it could lead you into other issues. And you definitely don't want to risk having a dog like this make a decision that gets them in trouble for the long term or potentially cost them their life. And for some of you, that is legitimate risk. You need to be very careful if you have a dog that has any sort of history of being questionable with people. Do not put them in that situation. A highly trained protection dog is actually usually very good with people. They understand that behavior as more of a game and something that is in partnership with the handler and the decoy, unless they are, like I said, career. This is career training for these dogs, or in law enforcement and military. Your pet dog is not that dog. Those dogs are not pet dogs. Okay, guys? Feel free to leave your questions, comments, or email us if you'd like us to chat with you live on the page about a Fix It Friday question. Nothing's off limits, I should say. I end up with a lot of questions, typically not just around dog behavior, but also rescue, training, business development, dialogue, and how to get into this crazy industry, how to deal with clients, how to deal with adopters, how to deal with fosters, how to be better in any area here is available to you to throw at me so we can chat it up and find the right strategy for you. And I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.